Hey friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today we're in the sewing room, and it's a good place to be. Right now it is drizzly, rainy, cloudy, and it's probably only about 50 degrees out, so it's not a nice day outside. The rain, of course, we can always use, so we're thankful for that. And we're thankful that it's not snow and ice too, I guess. So I hope the weather is nice where you are. If not, I hope you have a cozy place, and I hope that you're able to sew. Today, we are going to be making the second block from the Tilda pattern that I shared with you last time. Now, this is a free download at Tilda's World, and I'll put the link to this free pattern in the description box below. And this one is called Merry Little Christmas Dear Santa Calendar. And the fabric line is Merry Little Christmas by Tilda. And I just absolutely love that fabric, and that was why I wanted to make these blocks, because I think these blocks showcase that fabric so nicely. So we made the Santa last time. Today we're going to be making the Christmas tree. And if you remember on my Santa block, I shared with you that I'm not doing the house block. I'm going to make these two blocks, and I think I'm going to do a different layout. And I haven't decided what layout I'm going to do. I had thought about a runner, I had thought about a wall hanging, and I had thought about stockings, using each of these blocks as stockings. And so I'm still considering what exactly I'm going to do, but I will know here soon. If you are interested in making the next block, and that is the Christmas tree block, this one right here, it's also adorable, and it really showcases those greens. Then stick around for the next section, because I'm going to walk you through how to make this block. I also am going to share in the description box below some free downloads, and one of the downloads is for the letter tiles to mark your fabric cuts. The other free download is some fabric tags, and these you can put on your fabric so that you can mark what fabric you're using, and then once you have your fabric cut, you'll know what those pieces are if you label them with this. So if you have your free downloads, your free pattern, and any fabric that you want to use to make these cute blocks, pull them out and let's get started. Now, before we start making the Christmas tree block, I do want to say, if you stick around to the end, I am going to share a sneak peek of a block that I'm making that I am going to be using with the Christmas tree and the Santa. It is a block I've designed, and I think you're going to like it. But that is at the end, so you'll need to go to the end to find out what that block is, and that is going to be a tutorial in the near future. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. If you do, don't forget to share, comment, like, and also if you make any of these blocks, don't forget to tag me on Instagram, and that is at Blue Rooster Farm 23. I'd love to see what you're making. So here's our tutorial. Hey friends, this is Karen from Blue Rooster Farm, and today we are doing part 2 of our Tilda Merry Little Christmas Dear Santa and Christmas tree blocks. And this is what we made last time, and it's a beautiful Santa Claus, kind of an old world Santa Claus, very nice size, tall, long. And today we are going to be working on this Christmas tree. Now this is a free pattern from Tilda's World. And in the description box below, I am going to leave a link so that you can go and find this pattern. and you can download it, print it, whatever you want to do with it. Tilda has some beautiful patterns on her site, and they are just absolutely stunning. A lot of them are very detailed, but all of them are doable. This one right here, it was a little difficult with all the cutting, and if you go back to this video, you'll see, but I simplified that for my viewers by sharing with them some free labels and some free letter tiles, and I gave them the cuts for each fabric, and I think that helped make this a little easier, and I hope so. It did for me anyway. Then today I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you some letter tiles and some fabric labels so that you can also do this one quite easily. This one is not nearly as many pieces. It has pretty straightforward directions. This one just was so involved. It wasn't hard to make once you had everything cut and labeled. The cutting and labeling took me longer than actually making the block. The block is a really easy block, actually, if you have everything nicely labeled. And you could make this in an hour. It took me a little over 2 hours to make this, but I was videotaping, and so of course I was starting and stopping and getting everything with the camera. So I think if I just made this after I had everything cut out, just putting this together, it would take me less than an hour. So don't be afraid of this block. It's a very forgiving block. Very few seams match up, and so you don't have to be exact on a lot of things. So give this a try if you're interested and if you like it. And if you do make this block, please tag me in Instagram. My tag is at BlueRoosterFarm23. And I would love to see what you're making. And you don't have to have the Merry Little Christmas fabric, even though it is absolutely beautiful. You can do this in any fabrics you have. Here is what I had purchased, and all of these, except for 1 or 2 of them, are just either fat quarters or 1/4-inch cuts. And you use very little for this piece right here. So you have a ton of fabric left over. And this one right here, you don't use a lot of fabric either. So you don't need too much just for these 2 blocks. And so that's really nice because now I have a lot more fabric that I can make some more free patterns with. So if you go to the description box below, you're going to see this linked, and you're also going to see my letter tiles and my fabric labels. And on my fabric labels, I, on the back, share with you the cuts that you're going to need to make with that. And so if you have looked at the pattern, you'll see what that is, and it just simplifies it a whole lot. So this right here, if you're making the whole block just like it is, measures 37.5 by 40.5. And you could add borders, and you can add, different motifs and stuff, even several of these rows, and make it bigger like a small lap quilt. She also has a pattern where she uses this block and makes many of them and turns it into a bigger quilt, and it is just gorgeous. The reason I'm just doing this and the tree right now is because I just don't have time to do a full quilt and put out the videos for all of my viewers. So I am just doing these 2 right now, and maybe sometime in the future I'll add more blocks and I will be able to make the quilt. It is really beautiful. So let's get started on our tree, and let me put this away. So here we have all of our pieces cut, and now we're going to be piecing this together. And this is a pretty straightforward quilt block to make, and I think it should be pretty forgiving. So let's see what we can do. Now I've gone ahead and laid this out according to my labels, and when I had green fabric, what I meant was the greens for the Christmas tree, and then there's some greenery for the bows down here. Either those are bows or a little bit of greenery on the presents, but I went ahead and cut all of that and put it together here because there isn't too much of the other additional green. And then everything is just laid out the way it would be. Now in the directions, she gives you really nice pictures. And she shows you what the block is going to look like completely finished. And here are the directions that we're going to be using. Now here are all the cutting pieces. She doesn't tell you what fabric to cut here. You have to look over here to see what fabric you are cutting. And then you need to find the size. And that is where these labels right here come in really handy. So this is the green fabric. So I have all of the cuts for everything that is green, and I used a variety of colors. And so I just have the cuts right there that you need using your green fabric, and you can just mix and match them. If I have a number next to a letter, that means you need 2 of those cuts. And so that made it easy. Now I did notice in this pattern, I don't think I had any letter tile that I needed 2 of. I think everything is just cut once. With the Santa, we had lots of different tiles, letter tiles that were used multiple times. And so we had to print off a couple of sheets of letter tiles and then fill in some as we went, because there were a lot of same size blocks but using different fabric. This one is not going to be like that, so that is really good. So once you have everything cut out and laid out like I have it, we are going to go to this page right here, and there's no page numbers on this. This just has making the Christmas tree number 11, okay? Now I think this block that we're starting with is probably the most difficult block, not the Christmas tree block, but the first piecing that we're going to do. So we're going to get that out of the way. And it's not that it's difficult, it's just that it's different. At least for me, I don't work with too many rectangles. So as far as flip and stitch rectangles, so this was a little more new to me, but it's not hard at all. So when we flip over to the picture, this is going to help us a lot. We need piece AA and then the 2 BBs in the background fabric. So let me grab those. This is AA and this is BB. And I'm going to now set this aside. The first thing we're going to do is take AA, and it's going to go long ways across where it's wider. And we're going to take a ruler, and we are going to use a fabric pen, something that will erase. And we're going to go around and we are going to draw a 1/4 inch seam allowance on every edge of this fabric cut. So I just take my ruler, measure, line it up with the 1/4 inch line. And you want to go from edge to edge, just like that. And you want to be as accurate as you can. You don't have to be perfect, but accuracy is important if you want your blocks to turn out nicely. And then once we have that, we are going to find, if we keep our block this way, and remember, if you have directional fabric or you have a fussy cut here, go ahead and lay it the way you want it to look. That way it won't be upside down. So this is the way this block is going to look on my block. So it says to go in 3/4 inch from the bottom left-hand side. And on that 1/4 inch seam line, we are going to make a dot, okay? Then we're going to do the same thing over here. A 1/4 inch, or 3/4 inch, I'm sorry, 3/4 inch away from that edge. And I'm going from this edge here to 3/4 inch, and I'm making a circle right there on that seam line. And I'm going to zoom you up a little bit so you can see it better. So 3/4 inch to here, 3/4 of an inch to here. Then we also want to go on our BB pieces, and on the backs of these, we wrote on the fronts, the right side of the fabric on this one. This will be on the back. Now, if you're using a solid, there is no front or back, so either side is fine. Okay, and I am using an Essex linen, and this is flax, just the plain flax, Essex linen. And also, when you do this block, I suggest starching beforehand. Before you cut, go ahead and starch your fabric. Anytime you're working with small pieces of fabric, it works so much nicer if you have your blocks all starched, and you want to starch it before you cut them, okay? So now on these, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance and draw those lines all the way around, just like we did a while ago. And if you do it correctly, you might be able to do both of them at once. Let's try it. And there is what we have. Now on these, what we want to do, I've got the left one here and the right one here. On the left one, we want to go from this corner where the seams intersect to this corner, and we want to draw a line. And it's a small block, so just make sure you get it accurate. Okay, there's one. And on the right block, we want to do the opposite. We want to go from the upper left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. And remember, we are matching those lines with this straight edge, not the corners, the lines. And that's that dot right there. Match that dot. Okay, that's what we have, and that's what it looks like. Now what we get to do is we get to pull this piece back in, just like this, and we are going to put this piece right here from this point here to this point here. So I can go ahead and put a point in that corner. It is just where those seams intersect. So we want to go from that point and then match this point. Okay, just like that. And then you want to stick a few pins in there to hold it. Just make sure it doesn't scoot on you. And if this block is something new to you, you may want to take some scrap fabric and cut it the sizes of these pieces and practice it once before you do it. I had thought about doing that, but I thought we'll just wing it. That way, if I make a mistake, you'll see that so that you will know that it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And I like to use these fine glass head pins. They seem to stick in the fabric really nicely. So I'm just checking my points and making sure they're lined up. And they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to the sewing machine and I'm going to start off the fabric right here. And I am going to stitch right on that diagonal line that's on this fabric and all the way off. Same thing over here. Start, and I don't think, and I didn't, let me do this. I did not draw that line all the way off, and I do want to draw it all the way off because you are stitching all the way off that fabric. Okay. So we're gonna stitch from this all the way off the fabric here, from here all the way off the fabric there. I'll do that and bring you right back. Okay, I've stitched on those lines. Now what it says to do, it says to go ahead and trim off a 1/4 inch from that stitch line that you just did. But I'm not going to do that yet because I want to look and see if I've got it right. When I fold this back, it should have a nice angle, and this fabric should cover up that fabric, this right here, that's back behind it, and that one does. So let's fold this one back, and that one does too. So check it before you trim it. If it's not covering up that background fabric or this fabric here when you fold it back, remove your stitches and stitch again. Check your line, see if there's a line that you misdrew. Make sure you're being accurate. So that does work. So now I can take and I can trim off a 1/4 inch away from that seam that I just sewed. There's that. There's that. That's our waist. And then when this goes back, we should have a rectangle that is the same size as this block was originally. And it is. It covered it up just perfect. So now I'm just going to take it to my iron and I'm going to press that back. And this, like I said, I think this is the hardest piece of this block, and we have it over with. The next thing we're going to be making is the top section of the Christmas tree, and that is this section right here. So we need to make that heart block, and right here it says assembly of the top and bottom section of the Christmas tree, and it just walks us through how to put that together. So we are going to need, let's see what sections here, B, and let me look at my picture back here. We are going to need B, and then for the background, we have 4 C's and 2 D's. I'll also be grabbing the A's too. Okay, we're going to start with our B's, and we're going to lay them out right here. And this is going to be the 2 sections of our heart. And I've got them the direction that we need them to go. They need to be tall. So we need the D's for the bottom corners. And these are the same size or the same width. So they just go right on top of the bottom portion of your heart pieces. And we need 4 C's, and these are going to go on each corner at the top, and these are also going to lay and fill in that top perfectly, just like that. So you can lay all 3 of those on the block at one time, and we can set all 3 up and go to the sewing machine and sew all 3 at a time. So before we take it to the sewing machine, let's go ahead and draw our diagonal lines. And so for each of these C squares, we're going to have a diagonal line that cuts across the corner like that, and like that, and the same thing over here. These blocks are identical. And then this one right here is going to go from this corner to this corner. And this one's going to go from this bottom corner to this top right corner. And then when you look at this, you can see the heart. So just make sure your diagonals are in the right spot. So there's the heart. Now, if you want, you can pin. You can also use a little bit of school glue, and I just put the school glue in the corners because they are going to be cut off. And if you want to put these down and iron them, put them on and then do your lines if you're using a friction pin. These will usually be fine for me. They'll dry by the time I get to my sewing machine. And you just want to make sure they are laid right on top. Oops, my glue stick's running out. Right on top of that piece, matching up those edges. That's what you want. Okay, and these are going to be also cut off, so we can also put a little bit down here. And I'm going to have to get my new glue stick out, I think. Just like that. Now when I take this to my sewing machine, I'm going to do one block all the way and then the other block. So I'm just going to start right here, go up, turn, go this way, and turn, go this way. And I don't have to cut my thread. Then without cutting my thread, I will feed this one in, and I can feed it in starting right here, go up, go across, and come down, and it will also work perfect. And then after that, I cut the thread, and I'll bring you right back. And I have all the stitches done, so we can flip back each one, and they should cover up the back fabric, and those do fine. These do fine. And that one does. And so does that one. So we are in good shape. All you need to do is take a pair of scissors or use your rotary cutter and just trim those background pieces in the back 1/4 inch away from your seam line. I'm going to take these to my sewing machine and I am going to press them, and I'll bring you right back. There we have those 2 blocks. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to put our A's, and they will go long ways like a cross here. And we're going to stitch, and you can start anywhere. We're going to stitch all 4 of these blocks together. So I'm just going to start like this and like this. And then when I sew, I'll sew 1/4 inch away from that edge, and then I'll sew the hearts together. So I'll bring you back when I have all 4 pieces sewed together. And there we have that piece. Now I did press going out, and in the block that's going to be underneath it, we will need to remember to press going in so that these seams that are matching will be nesting really nicely. Now I did want to point out something else on this heart block, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit here. When you're doing this heart block, you may want to reverse your pressing your seam allowance. You may want to press one going toward the background triangles and one going toward the center. Now, I forgot about that when I was cutting this or when I was pressing it earlier, so I went ahead. I didn't press this one back or change the directions, but I did press this one the opposite way. That way we have one seam going this way, one seam going this way, and they nested because we want that point to match up right there. That's the center of the heart right there where it comes together. And we also want these points down at the bottom to match up. So you could flip this one back. I probably could have. I wasn't sure if the seam allowance, well, I had already sewn right here, and so I'd have to clip it. So I just matched those seams really carefully, put a pin, and then if I had a loose side, I put that toward the feed dogs and sewed that up. So that way when we open it up, our points meet there and our points meet there. And if you struggle with that, that is a good way to help fix that. So the top block is all finished, and we're just going to set this aside. Okay, now we're going to move on down to the bottom block, this block right here. And so we are just following her steps, and we're going to start with the tree trunk and then 2 of the pieces. Let's see what letters those are. We are going to need U, V, and W for this first section. Okay, all we're going to do is take our trunk fabric, which is V, And we are going to turn it so it's tall, going up and down like this. We're going to take U, and it is going to be on the left side of it, and W, it is going to be on the right side of it. And this is just very simple. Just put your right sides together, 1/4 inch away, then flip it back and do the same over here, 1/4 inch away, and we're going to have one long strip. And there we have it. Make sure you have it turned the right direction. The long piece is on the left. So now we need to go and do this portion right here. And it looks like we're going to do the package, this little gift package first. Then we're going to be putting a piece in. Then we're going to be putting our tree stand pot right there. So let's see here, and then another piece. So let's start with the package right here. And we need, and I've just torn this one out. We need Y X's in the green fabric and X's in the background fabric. Now, you are only going to need 2 of the background X's and 2 of the green X's. And this is one spot where we did need 2 X's. I had just marked mine with a piece of paper. But again, I've only got 1 X in the letter tiles, so you'll have to use a piece of paper to mark this one. So what we're going to do is we are going to be making 4 half square triangles. So we're going to put the fabric pretty side up, and we're going to put a background fabric on top, and we're going to draw a line from one corner to another. It doesn't matter which corner to which corner. Now, I did cut my X's 2 inches. It says 1 7/8 inch. I like to cut them just a little bit bigger, and 1 7/8 inch is kind of a odd measurement. It's pretty picky. So I just cut them 2, and if I need to trim them down, I will. So I've got my diagonal there. I can just put pins in it if I want, or I can, well, you don't want to glue this one because this one you do not have any scraps to cut off on the corners. So let's just put pins on these. And on these, we are going to stitch a 1/4 inch on both sides of that line for both of them. And I'll be right back. Okay, I stitched a 1/4 inch on both sides of the line, and now we can just take scissors or a rotary cutter and just cut directly on that line. So we have 2 triangles, and those are actually 2 half square triangles because when we open them up, there is 1 part background and 1 part print fabric. And let's measure these. These should measure, let's see, 1.5 inches. So I can stick this on my ruler here, and I am just a hair over, so I'm going to trim mine down. And you can do whatever method you enjoy or you like. And I've talked about all the different methods in a lot of my videos. I'll just do this one. I can just take a plain, let me see if I can, that one's hard to see. Let me get a red mat. Okay, I think that shows up a little bit better for you. So what we can do is we can take one of our triangles and we can press it open, and I'll just finger press it right now with my fingernail. Just make sure there's no little pleats in there. And so I'm going to take my ruler. It just has to be bigger than the block or at the same size as the block. We need 1.5 inches. So I'm going to be setting this on my fabric. I'm going to take the side that has the 1 and the 1, and I should have a diagonal line right there. And I'm going to take that diagonal line and match it up with the seam line on my fabric. And I can see that I'm just a hair over, and that was expected since I cut these just a little bit bigger, which is fine because I do like to trim down my blocks so that way I have the perfect size and it makes it easier for me to sew them in. So what I'm going to do, because it's kind of hard, these 2 fabrics are a lot alike, I'm going to go ahead and trim off my dog ears so I can see through my ruler where my point is. these two fabrics just match pretty closely, and you don't have to do this normally. Okay, so then I'm taking my 1, 1 right here. I'm laying it right there on my piece of fabric. And if you have two sides that are perfect and it lines up, you could just trim one side or one of the top and the side, but I'm going to trim off a little on each just to make sure they're all straight. So as long as I have my line on that diagonal, I am good. And like I said, the fabric is close to the background, so it kind of is hard to see that line, the seam line. Get that piece out of there. There we go. And then I'm going to take this corner, flip it all the way over to the bottom left. Now these two lines are nice and straight and squared up. We need to get the top and the right now squared up. So again, we do the same thing, only this time we go ahead and line it up with the 1.5 inch line here and the 1.5 inch line here. And there's just a tiny bit there. So we are just trimming that off, and there we have a perfect 1.5 inch half square triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and do these other ones, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, we have our 4 half square triangles right there, and so we're ready to put them together with our Y. It shows this is a square, so it doesn't, well, let's see, make sure it is. Yes, it's a square, so it doesn't matter which direction you're going to put that. I think I'll do it like that. Then you're going to take one of these half square triangles, and it's going to go with the fabric that is your green fabric in the bottom left corner. And then you're going to take another one, and I'm just going to use the opposite or the other color, and you're going to be putting it so that it's in the upper left hand corner. Okay, just like that. Now I'm going to take these two, and again, if yours did not press the right directions, and it should, if you press them all the same, they should nest right there. So let me make sure I've got this the right way. Yep. So I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away right there. And I've gone ahead and pressed it, and I pressed it open so that there wouldn't be a lot of bulk right there. So now making sure you have it laid the correct way, I'm going to put it at the top of that package right there, and I'm going to put right sides together, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away. And I press my seam toward the package. So there's that block, and then we need to do this little piece of fabric that goes between the two here, and that one is Z, and I should have 2 Z's. So we're going to take this, and we are going to put right sides together. I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch away. And at the same time, I'm going to take my other Z, and I'm going to put it right here, and also sew that one a 1/4 inch away. Then I'm going to take and sew this one to this, and we'll have a nice long strip. And there we have that strip. We just need to add one more block here, and that's the other gift. It's this one right here. So we need DD, and we're going to make this gift in the same way we made the other one. We're going to take our other 2 half square triangles, and we are going to be putting one at the bottom going toward the lower left corner, and then one going up just like that. And I'm looking to see if I want to change directions. No, I think I'll do it that way. And so I'm going to make sure you have them going the right direction, put them right sides together, and again they should nest. and just push them together. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch away from this edge. And just like on my other half square triangle block, I pressed the seams open, and that's going to go right here. Just make sure your half square triangles are in the right direction. Right sides together, stitch a 1/4 inch away. And here is my piece. I went ahead and pressed toward the package. So we have that. Now we also need a little piece that goes right above there, and that is CC. So we'll take that piece right there, and it is just a rectangle, and it should match up at the top, and it does. So with right sides together, we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch from the edge. And I have pressed that one so that the seam allowance goes toward that background fabric. All right, so now in order to get these to fit, we need to take this piece with the tree trunk on it and put it right sides together with that other section. And I like to match my corners. Even if one of them is longer than the other, go ahead and match them. And then if you see any difference, if one of them is bigger, that side will go toward your feed dogs, which are at the bottom base of your sewing machine. So it'll just go down like that if this was looser. And I also want to put a pin right here in the middle so my top edges aren't going to slip so that they don't get into the seam allowance. So there we go. So I will go and sew a 1/4 inch all the way across. And we have all of those sections together. Now we need to add this one. So it looks like they are the right size. If one of them is longer, don't trim it down. We're just going to make it fit, unless it's really way off, but it shouldn't be off. If this one were off quite a bit, you could trim this top. That would be fine. It wouldn't make any difference, but they should be very close. So I'm going to take and pin my corners. And just like last time, if there is a side that is looser, that will go toward my feed dogs. And this one right here is a little bit looser, so I'm going to kind of put a pin right in the middle so both sides have a little bit of a gap. And I will take this to my sewing machine, and this side will go down since it is looser, and also right here. And there we have it. I went ahead and pressed toward this because we only had one seam. Nothing is going to be matching seams on this block. So we've got the top and the bottom section done. Now let's start working on the tree. Now we're going to go and we're going to make the middle portion of our tree block, and that is all of the branches. And so what we're going to do is we are going to take all of the G squares that we cut out earlier, and we are going to draw a diagonal line down every single one. Now, if you're going to use your seam tape that you have on the bed of your sewing machine, you don't have to do this step, but if you don't have seam tape, you'll want to draw the lines. And I like to draw them now, that way I don't have to draw them while they're on the blocks. So we've got all of these drawn. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of the tree branch fabrics, and that would be F, I, K, M, O, Q, S, and T, and we are going to snowball the corners. And so let me just show you on F. This is the top branch. And I'm going to keep that tile because I'm going to stick it to it so that I know which section this is. Now, if I were making this, I don't think I would need to keep that because I think I can figure out which piece goes to the sides. But I want to do that this way for those of you that are new to quilting, and it's just a little bit easier so you don't get confused. So what I'm going to do is this one right here, if I try to put two, let me put these right here. If I try to put two of these corners on this block, they are overlapping. And if they're overlapping, we cannot put both of them on at the same time. We've got to do one, and then we have to do the other. So I can just put a pin or some glue, and since these are such big corner blocks, pins work just fine. So I might put one there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sewing machine and sew on this line, and then I'll flip it back and then add this one. So I'm going to do that in just a second, but I want to show you on another one. And I think that the next one, it looks like this is This one is like the rest of them. So on the rest of them, what you're going to do is you're going to have enough room for you to go ahead and put both of them down at the same time. Okay, so I can do it just like this, and I can match up my edges very carefully. Put a pin out of the way so my sewing machine foot does not hit it. And on this one and the rest of them, I will just start on one end or the other. In fact, I think I'm going to just feed them all through at the same time. So I'll just go and I'll feed this one through, then I'll feed the next one through, and then I'll feed the next one through. Then I will trim the thread at the end, turn them around, and start sewing all of them on this side and just do it chain piecing. You could do each block one at a time. I don't like to start at the corners because sometimes those corners can get sucked down into the little holes there where my needle goes into by my feed dogs. And so I always like to start on a straight line like this. So if I did that, I would go here, bring a lot of thread over, and go here. And so it's not as easy. I would rather just go here, a little thread, go here, and keep pushing my blocks, and then turn them around and do the opposite side, okay? So this is how I'm going to do all of the other blocks, and I don't think I need to do each one for you. I think you understand that. But on this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and sew this right here, and then I'll bring you back and show you how we flip it back. Then we're going to add this one. And at that point, they're going to overlap just a little bit, and that's okay. This one will be on top. And I'll sew that one, and I'll show you how that one looks. So I have my first seam sewn on that top branch, and I pushed it back, and it covers that background. So I do want to go ahead and right now trim that back corner off, and remember, just a 1/4 inch away from your seam. Then after that's done and it's been pressed back, we're going to put the other one on. And it is going to go on like this. And again, it does overlap just a little bit right there. So we'll put a pin in, and I will take this to the sewing machine and sew right on that line. And so here it is. I've pressed it back. It covered it up nicely. Now just trim that back corner off a 1/4 inch away from that seam. And we have a nice block right there. And this should be a 1/4 inch from that tip. That way when we sew our seam allowance in, it will not get cut off, okay? If you notice your tip isn't lined up a 1/4 inch away, you may look and see if your lines were correct, if you're going right on the diagonal. It's not going to hurt, you know, to have a point cut off, especially if you're a beginning sewer or a beginning quilter, because that just is the way it is. As we practice and do more and more, our accuracy does get a lot better. I lost a lot of points when I was first quilting, and I can tell you it didn't bother me then. And when I see a quilt, it really doesn't bother me now. So there's the top branch on our tree. And I went ahead and did the second one that we lined up just to show you it's going to be done the same way. And as we build this tree, the rectangles, which is the colored fabric, is going to get, those rectangles are going to get bigger and bigger. And so we're going to get a bigger space in between, and finally we're going to have these long ones like this, and there's going to be a big space in between. But here is the start of our Christmas tree, and you can see it's getting bigger and bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these snowballed corners for all of these branches right here, and then when I come back we'll add the side pieces. All right, so I have all of my branches all sewn up and all trimmed and pressed. I just kept the tags with them. You don't have to. I just did to make it easier to lay out. I've got one of my design boards here that is a long one, and it even goes off the camera there, so we'll move it around to see. If you're interested in knowing how to make your own design boards without using hot glue, this is a stitched on border here, and it's really easy. And if you want to see that video, I'll put a link right here. But these are great boards for using when you're laying out blocks. Let's see here. So let's lay this block out. We're going to start with F, and then it's I, and then K. And I'll just overlap them a little so we can see them. M. And then the next letter is O, Q, S, and T. And of course, I've got a little wonky there. Let me just straighten that up a little bit so you can see it. Okay, now I'm going to get my background pieces, and we're going to match up the background pieces with each one. And I like to lay it out because I'm more visual. You could just keep an eye on your pattern and grab the pieces that you need as you are sewing, but I like to just have them laid out for me. So it looks like we are going to need E on each of these sides, H, and they just go in order, J, and these pieces are getting smaller, L, N, P, and R, and the last one does not have anything added. This is the width of our block right here. So now that we have them matched up, I can easily now just take each one and put it right next to the ones that they're going to go together with. Now you can sew, when you're sewing these, one section at a time. So you can sew all these to get all of these three pieces together, all of these three pieces, and so forth. But I think what I'm going to do is to make it a little bit faster. I am just going to start here and sew each of these together, and then I will take it off the machine and I will add this side. And when you get a little smaller here, you need to look to see which direction your block goes in. If you try to put it that way, it's too small, so this one's going to go like that. So just watch, they should match up perfectly. But I'm just going to add one side of the background and then go and add the other side of background, and that way it will just run through really quickly. But you can do whatever method you want. So I'll just flip all of these over, right sides together. And I will stitch all of them a 1/4 inch away from the edge. Then I'll remove them, I'll cut the thread, and then I will do the next side all the way down. Okay, I'll bring you back when I'm done. All right, they are all sewed together. Now, I did just leave my tags on while I was sewing and ironing, and they did not get in my way, but you could definitely take them off. And again, you don't have to have them on there if you're pretty sure of yourself as far as not making a mistake in lining up the smallest to the largest. So what I'm going to do is lay these out. And so let's see. Our smallest is F, and then I've backed the camera off so we can see this whole board here. We need K. And when I'm putting these on here, let's go ahead and just try to match the edges too, and that way we can kind of get a better idea of what it's going to look like. And so there are all of our tree limbs. Now we also can go ahead at this time and put our, let's see if we can do this. Let me move them all up. And so all the pieces should be the same width, okay? Now, this is where you want to check. You want to check to make sure your pieces are stair-stepping out so that you know you haven't misplaced one of your branches. And that looks good to me. So we can go ahead and just start at the top. In fact, I think I'm going to start at the top, then do one on the bottom, then do one on the top here, these two, then do these two, and that way I can just feed them through my sewing machine without having to stop and clip threads. And then I'll take them off, line them up again, and then patch them together. So I'll do that with you so you can see what I'm doing. So let's just start right here, and let's take the base and this block right here. And I'm going to just put my clip right where I plan on sewing. I plan on sewing on that end. And I'm going to take these two. Now I know this is the top because it's got the heart, and I know the other one is the bottom because it has the tree stand. So I'm going to take both of these to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch away from the edge. Now here's where I recommend that you do the pinning again, because we have quite a long strip here. And if one piece is a little bit larger than the other, we want to make sure that we don't get a big pucker in our block. So I match both the left and the right corners. And then I pull it across, and it looks like both of them are the right size. And so I do want to match right here on our heart star. This point right here, I want to make sure it matches this point right here. And so what I can do here is take a pin and put it right in that point where those two seams cross, and then put it right where those two seams cross. And now I know that if I line that up just with that pin, that is a matching seam. So I can put a pin right next to it there, and I can put one over here next to it. That way it won't slip out of the spot. And I can take that pin out now. And I'll just take it to my sewing machine and stitch 1/4 inch away from that top edge. And I'll do the same thing with this piece. We don't have anything that matches on this one, but I still will match my corners. And here we have both pieces sewn. And I'm not going to press yet. I think I'm going to wait and press it all at once and probably have all of the seams going in the same direction. But that one went on fine. And just a hint here, let's see first of all what my points look like before I give you the hint. Okay, it looks like my points matched up just fine. Needs to be pressed, of course, but it's a lot of fabric right here because you have a lot of intersections of seams. But one of the hints that I do want to give you is when you are sewing this, if you have the green fabric up, you can see right where that point right where that point is. And so if you sew on just a thread's distance on the other side of that point, can you see that? You can get that to make a nice point on your quilt and it won't get chopped off. And there, when I open it up, you can see it did a good job, but not going to press yet. So this one's here and this one's here. So now I'm going to take the next two. I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep adding to what I have here. I'm going to take these two, do the same thing, match up my corners. There are no seams that are going to match, so we don't have to worry about nesting any. And then I'll take S and do the same thing here. Just make sure you're putting it in the right direction. You don't want one of these going up. And so I will sew that one on, and I'll just keep going. Okay guys, this is just looking absolutely beautiful. I just absolutely love it. Can't you just see like a runner with all of these trees in it? And you could even make them different sizes. You could leave off, a couple of branches or these green sections here and just scoot it all down so you'd have tall ones and short ones. You don't even have to use this portion right here. You could just have a colored portion like the ground. I could just see a really cute runner with that. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to be thinking about some ideas here. So now what we need to do is we need to press this. I haven't pressed anything yet because I was going to look at it and see how it would best lay. Now this one at the very bottom, I'm going to go ahead and press it up because that's the way it wants to lay. There's no seams at all coming together on that top piece, so that will lay nice and flat. Now, I was thinking that I might open these up because we have a really thick spot right here where these points of the green fabric come down. That's just a really big knot. But you know what? I think if I press it back on itself or even open it up, that's going to make that knot even bigger. So I think I'm going to press all of these down. So we're going to go all the way up to this top seam right here, this one here, and we're going to press these down. But then this one right here has all of this fabric in this section here, and it's on both sides because we have 2 points coming together. So this top one I will press open. I think that will make it lay the nicest. So again, press open. Press, did I say down? Yeah, press down. And then this last one here, press up. And I'll bring you back when it's all pressed. And there is our nicely pressed, completed tree block. Isn't that just adorable? I absolutely love it. I think the fabric is so pretty. This measures, let's see, looks like 21.5 by 11. So it's a nice, long, tall block. Let's put the Santa next to it. It is the same size, I believe. Let me see. Let's put it on top and see. It may not be as wide. No, it's not quite as wide. Okay. It's the same height, but just not quite as wide. It looks like it's about 3/4 of an inch or an inch smaller, the Santa is. So if we put these side by side like that, that is looking awfully cute. Very, very cute. So right now, this isn't a square. It is getting pretty close to a square. Let's see, it would be... So I'm thinking if you sew these together, it looks like it's going to be about 20.5 inches wide once it's sewn together. And it is 21.5 inches tall. So what you would probably want to do if you wanted to make a square with this is you'd want to put a little piece over here because you want to finish off that edge. And you'd probably want to put a little piece over here as well to finish off this bottom edge. I was just thinking that I kind of want to do a pillow. If I change my mind and don't want to do a pillow, I might go ahead and do the dollhouse. The dollhouse is super easy. You don't need instructions on it. It is very basic. It's just one little block right there, and the rest is just background. And so I don't think anybody's going to have any trouble putting that one together. But it would be neat to also incorporate this border here. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I was also thinking stockings maybe. Wouldn't that make a cute stocking? Just add some fabric down here for the toe and the heel at the bottom. Just add a piece there and put a little cuff up here. And I think that would look really adorable. But she does have a free pattern for some stockings that I think are really cute. And I think I want to make them. But I'm going to think about what I want to make with these two blocks, and I'll be back to do a video showing you what I come up with. So you stuck around to the end to see the sneak peek. Well, before I show you the block that I've been working on, I have been just trying to decide what to do as far as my setting for these blocks. And one of the things that I have thought about is stockings. Well, if I make stockings, that means I'll have a Santa block, a tree block, and then Tilda actually has a really cute stocking with this line of fabric that has a bird and some leaves in it. And she's got the whole pattern there. And so I was already wanting to bake that one. So there's 3 stockings right there. But our family, we have 4 right now. We have my husband and I, and then our 2 sons. And so I was thinking, I need a 4th block. And I was looking at the blocks and thinking, well, where's Mrs. Claus? If I make stockings, I can have Mrs. Claus. Andy could have Mr. Claus or Santa Claus. And the boys could have a tree and the bird. And I thought, well, that's what we need. And I need to design a Mrs. Claus. And that's what I did. So here is what I came up with. I hope you like it. So this block right here is Mrs. Claus, and she is holding a package, and she has a primitive Christmas tree standing by her. And again, embroidered eyes and a mouth, and then a teeny tiny nose that just about killed me to make. And then we have a sawtooth star up here in the corner. And I thought this block had a really nice balance, and I thought you could use this one on its own, or if I decide, I can also use it with Santa. So let me show you what that would look like. So they would go together really, really nicely if I put them together. That's what it would look like. And so I thought that looks really good. And of course, we also have the tree. And so the tree also, and I don't know if you can hear me when I get behind the board, the tree also goes nicely with them. And so there's a couple of different layouts that I could put. Also, if I decided to do the Mrs. Claus and Santa, I could even take out the packages and stuff and just make trees without this bottom part. And so there's all sorts of possibilities. So right now I am finishing up writing the pattern or the cuts for the Mrs. Claus block. And that was just my kind of to see how it worked and if there's anything I need to change. I'm pretty happy with it, so I think I'm going to keep it pretty much that way, and I think it's a really good companion block to this set. So I hope you enjoyed that sneak preview, and I hope you're looking forward to that tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're not a subscriber already, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. That would help my channel out a lot. Also, don't forget to like this video. That helps as well. And as always, I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you back here soon. Bye-bye.